Hey everyone, my name is Bex, and my goal is to break down and demystify the world of wine for you. And today, I thought it would be fun to just walk you through how I go about doing wine tastings as a professional. So in front of me, I have a Gewürztraminer, I have a rosé made from Grenache, and I have a Syrah. The first thing you do when you're looking at a wine is just looking at the color. So I'll start with the white, because when you do a tasting, generally you start with white wine. Now, what I love to do, and I think is super helpful, is grab some sort of sheet of paper. It could be lined, it could just be regular, or even just a napkin, something that has a stark white background to judge the color against. So you'll take your glass and just tilt it towards the paper. And it's nice to kind of roll it back and forth just to see what you're looking at. Don't get bogged down on all the different color names. Just think about the intensity. Is it light? Is it dark? Is it more yellow? Does it look more green? And go from there, because the color can't actually tell you a lot about what you're gonna taste in your glass. Rosé, you could have all sorts of different colors, varying from this one, which is a very pale, almost like baby pink color, almost to a full-blown Barbie neon pink. I've seen it all. So I can tell already that the body is going to be a little bit lighter than some other styles of rosé. I have a Syrah here, and I'm expecting Syrah right off the bat to be pretty intense. And just by looking at it, you see that the lines on the paper disappear. And that's what's really helpful about having lined paper or something with words or like a magazine, newspaper, because then you can see the intensity through it. If you can't see the words or the lines, you know you've got a big wine on your hands. Now that we've assessed the color, we're gonna assess the smell. You can tell so much about a wine just from smelling it. So I have a Gewürztraminer here, and I'm really excited for this because Gewürzt is usually a very aromatic wine. And in case you were wondering, you see wine people swirl the glass. There is actually a reason for that. So when you're swirling it, you see that you're getting some surface area. There's a lot of contact with oxygen, and that actually helps release aromas. So you want to do this with wine, but it doesn't really work with hard liquors like whiskey or gin. That just kind of releases alcohol, and nobody wants a face full of alcohol, you know? Right off the bat, florals. I'm getting a lot of orange and honeysuckle. It's like crisp apples, but more like Honey Crisp than Granny Smith. A way to think about aromas is, it sounds very old-fashioned, and even though I'm a 90s baby, I like to think about it this way. It's like going through a Rolodex of flavors that you already know. So thinking about, okay, where have I smelled this before? Why is this familiar to me? And you just have to dig back into your head and think about, where have I smelled this before? Right now, things are blooming like crazy in Napa, and there is honeysuckle all over the place. So I'll catch whiffs of it just in the air as I'm walking around. Same thing when you're slicing into an apple and you smell it before it goes into your mouth. Similar concept. On to the rosé. This one's kind of funky. I'm getting a lot of strawberry, which is totally classic for Grenache. You should want strawberry with Grenache, that just makes sense. But this has something that's almost a little savory to it, which is interesting. Now the Syrah. Again, you want to give it a nice swirl, especially for red wines. It really does help release, open it up, depending on how long it's been in the bottle or how long the bottle itself has been open. Smoked meats jumps out at me, and that is very typical of Syrah. It's about to be summertime, and Syrah goes beautifully with grilled meats for this reason. Still very dark and kind of lush. I'm expecting a lot out of the flavor of this just because of how pungent and how big the nose is. Think about what you already know and apply it to the wine that you're tasting. So next time you ever go out to a farmer's market, or if you're cooking at home, take a second to actually smell your spices. If you're about to put an ingredient in, take a moment and just focus on, this is the blackberry, this is the green bell pepper, this is the cloves. And hold on to that, and that becomes part of that Rolodex that you can dig back through and come to as a reference when you have wine in front of you. Okay, now the fun part, we're gonna taste it. So I like to do another little swirl, a little smell. It's really crucial when you drink this wine, or any wine for that matter, that you really roll it around in your mouth first, because you want it to hit every single part of your palate. Because that's what'll tell you a lot. Like right now, I am salivating a lot, which tells me that this is gonna have a lot of acid to it, which makes sense for the style of wine that I'm drinking. But it also has a lot of fruit flavor to it. And again, very classically, Gewürztraminer has a lot of aromatics. And as you swallow your wine, you do kind of get those aromas back up and into your nose. That's called a retronasal effect. As you swallow, those aromatics are kind of hitting back up because you know that your nose and your mouth are connected, right? Gewürztraminer, people don't give it enough credit. It's actually really, really good, especially with fish and ceviche and Thai food. Spicy food with Gewürztraminer, try it, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's nice to just sit with the wine for a couple seconds too and just really pay attention. So much of wine tasting, honestly, is just paying attention. Taking a moment to really think about the wine that you're drinking and not just knocking it back. Half the battle right there is a little bit of patience. And I feel that acid right along my tongue, right along the edges of my teeth and gum line. The classic giveaway for acid. Strawberry rhubarb pie, which I haven't had in a long time, but that's what this smells like to me. See? Your nose is really amazing. It's right next to the olfactory bulb. It's so close to the memory center in your brain. That's why scent is super, super powerful. It triggers memories. So even if you get something weird like, this is a strawberry rhubarb pie that my grandma used to bake. Strawberry and rhubarb, that's what you're smelling. And I feel it a little bit right in the front of my mouth, which is a sign that there is a little bit of tannin. That's where you normally feel tannins, is right in the front part, like between your gum and the top of your teeth, which is, again, why you want to swirl it everywhere, because you want to hit all of those different sensory places in your mouth. The little savory, that would be a fun one to do with pork or a little bit heavier meat, like a roasted poultry. Would be really good. Syrah is one of my favorite varieties. I'm really excited for this one. And just smoked meat and blackberries and really deep blueberry almost. A big giveaway for Syrah is violets, white and black pepper, and also blackberry. And this kind of smoked meat characteristic. It's not a flaw, it's supposed to taste like that, at least for the Syrah. Man, I wish I had some steak right now. I feel those tannins, they are there, they are present, but they're still they're a little softer than if this was a fresh wine. This is a 2016, so it has had some time to age and kind of figure itself out a little bit. But the acid is there because I'm still salivating. And this is tricky for people, separating out tannins versus acid. Because in wine, like this Syrah, they do kind of feel the same as you're tasting it because tannins do dry out your mouth. They bind to saliva proteins, and that's what makes the dryness happen. And same thing with acid, makes you salivate. So the two of those together sometimes get confused, which is why it can be hard to separate out if something is high tannin versus something that's high acid. So just remember, where on your palate are you feeling it? If it's here, it's tannin. If it's here, it's probably acid. God, I love Syrah. It's so good. So underrated too. More people should make Syrah, seriously. Try it. If you're not familiar, drink Syrah. All right, so now you've walked through color, aroma, and taste. The last thing you want to do is the finish. How long do those flavors linger in your mouth? Are you still salivating after drinking a really high acid wine? Or like with this Syrah, are you still trying to like lick the inside of your gum to get some moisture back into your mouth? And that can be a big indicator for quality. That's what we do on a professional level when we're really analyzing wine for judging tournaments or tastings, or just even in the cellar when we're making wine and going through blending trials. But for you, the big thing is just to decide, do you like it? Why do you like it? Or if you don't like it, why do you not like it? And I know that you might still not have all of the vocabulary to figure out, okay, well, I can pinpoint what it is I don't like, but you can compare it to other things. Why would you maybe not like this Gewürztraminer versus Chardonnay? Well, maybe you don't like how aromatic it is. You don't want your wine to smell like a honeysuckle bush, and that's important. If you hold on to that factor, again, add it to your Rolodex. Or if you have a journal or you're keeping notes somehow, start to notice patterns that you have. I know that there are certain things that I don't like and there are things that I love, and that guides me when it comes time to taste, if I'm in a winery or a wine shop or in a restaurant. If I know a couple of things that I know that I like or I know that I don't like, that can make a world of difference when you're trying to go buy wine in any of these certain settings. But once you start identifying what it is you do and don't like, it's going to become a lot easier. Once you taste everything, it's nice to kind of sit back, reflect, and then go through it again. Why not? Another thing that's important while you're tasting wine is to give yourself space between tastings, because a lot of times there are lingering effects, especially if you're going from a Syrah back to this. Because of the tannins in Syrah, it's going to make this rosé feel more tannic, even though it isn't. So that's why when you go to wine tastings, they have an order of operations. And generally, you'll notice sparkling is first, then white, rosé, then your big reds. They do that for a reason. I hope these few tips have been helpful for you, and there are a lot of different ways to go about tasting wine, but that's the way that I go about it. That's the way that I was taught, and that's the way that makes the most sense, is just break it down. If you think about it in its component parts, wine stops being quite as intimidating. And it's not scary to think, oh my god, I need all the words. Vocabulary is helpful, but if you focus on the sensation first and then go back and find your words, I feel like you'll find it's a little bit easier than you think it is. Once you identify what sensations you like or don't like, or do you like something that has a lot of fruitiness to it, which is different than sweet. It's different than sweet. You can have a very fruit-forward wine like that Gewürztraminer, but there's no sugar left in it. But it tastes like it might be sweet because it's fruity. The biggest thing that I would encourage you to do is just keep tasting, keep drinking wine, keep trying new things, and you will get better at this. You will find what you like if you keep an open mind and you stay curious. I didn't know all of this about wine until I started paying attention, until I really started caring and figuring out how to do this. It's a journey, and it's a delicious one at that. Cheers to you who have decided to start your journey. No matter where you are on it, welcome. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty silly sometimes. And in the end, it's truly just up to what you like. If you enjoyed this episode and found it informative and helpful, I encourage you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. That way you know exactly when I put out new videos for you. You can also leave me a comment down below and let me know what you'd like me to talk about, or if this was helpful for you. And the easiest thing to do is just pop a like on it and let me know that you enjoyed it. Cheers to you. Cheers to your health, and remember that the best bottle of wine is always the one that you share.